All right, so this is Isaac and Hamel, and what we are planning on doing today is start working on the Parlance Labs website, Hamel's website, and work on converting that to fast HTML and seeing what the how that looks to build. So first things first, we've got a fast HTML folder with main.py. It's an empty file. We're going to be using MonsterUI for the transition. So let's get
All
started.
right. Are you gonna use cursor? Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Happy to use something else if you'd like, though.
No, let's use whatever is you like to use. You know.
Yeah, I use cursor some. I use notebooks a lot, but um I guess
I
we
think
could
I'm
do it
gonna
either way.
try. I'm gonna try cursor again next time. But I build a new app just to see as well. It's always good to
Yeah, I feel like cursor's
contrast.
cursor's got a good following, so I feel like it's a nice neutral choice. Um so here what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up a very basic app. And for me, the first thing I try and do is I try and get as quick as possible to something that I can look at. And so like right here, I can't get much feedback on the code um, because there's no output. And so I want to get to that as quick as possible. And that's true in notebooks or cursor, really anything here, kind of the solve it approach. So we've got hopefully a basic app here. We imported a fast HTML. After that, we imported Monster UI. And Monster UI is going to like shadow a bunch of stuff and like give default styling. So you'll have like a
What do you
button
mean
with
shadow? A bunch of stuff? What does that mean?
so in fast HTML, there is when you import it, you get a button, but it's either a button style with Pico, by default, or if you're not using
Mm,
Pico, it's a button with zero styling at all, just a plain
mm,
HTML button, which is kind of basic. And so
mm.
now a button by default has Franken UI default styling through the Monster UI library. And
Oh,
so
I
this is
see.
our documentation page. And so these are what they look like, the different style buttons. And you see they have like hover effects and like all kinds of nice stuff. And in the docs, you can see exactly how they're created as well.
Nice. That's even fancier than Pico and hover thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty nice. All right. So,
Is that what Franken UI has? Has those hover things? You kind of ported it, or?
yeah, yeah, these are all Franken UI stylings. So if we look, we can see that exactly. Um,
And how did you toggle between the code? Like you opened the docs and you had toggled to the code all of a sudden. Like, how did you do that? Oh,
yeah, I've
C
got this
source.
C
Okay.
source, C output. This is a fast HTML app, so you can do cool stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah.
So yeah, it's Yeah, so you can see here, these are the buttons from Franken UI. Now, Monster UI has a whole bunch of other stuff as well, but this one's pretty much straight from Franken UI. It's saving you from having to type and remember every time you do a button, remembering to use those classes and typing it out every time, pretty much.
Gotcha.
So
Where did
we've
you
got
find, sorry, I have too many questions. Where did you find Franken UI? Like, how did it get on your radar?
so I've been wanting to do something about um I've been wanting to do something about styling because the styling was like the hardest part for me about making apps and like getting a good layout and like making everything work. It was definitely the hardest for me. And and yeah, basically I was talking to Jeremy about it and he thought I should make a library and he recommended Franken UI. And it's based kind of
Mm.
inspired by like this Shad CN, which is a big thing in the React space of this, but it's more for like vanilla um, HTML, which is a nice simple approach. It works really well with HTMX. So Jeremy's recommendation, basically, no
So
surprise
what's the
there.
difference? What's the relationship between FrankenUI and ShadCN? Like, is it like built on ShadCN? I don't even know I barely know what ShadCN is. I know like it's a style kind of thing that people use with the components. I see it everywhere. And then like, how does FrankenUI kind of build on top of that?
Yeah, Franken UI. So let's see here. Shad CN creates these beautiful copy and pasted components that you can use, and you can see all these examples. Like here's the mail example, dashboard, tasks, and so they kind of created this styling and this look that you can copy and paste. Now, they aren't a library really. Um, you're supposed to copy and paste and pull from this. And what Franken UI did is they took this as inspiration to make something that is, um, for more vanilla. And so, like, if you look at this mail, when you look at mail, you'll see it has a lot in common. If you look at the task list, you'll see this task list and the ShadCN task list almost the same. Um, Mostly the difference is I'm on a different theme right now. Um, so
So what is
Franken
the
UI
difference
was
then?
just
Yeah.
inspired. It was inspired by ShadCN, but it's not built on top of it. And the difference is Franken UI doesn't, you know, you don't have to be kind of in the React world. You don't have to have one of those frameworks to use Franken UI. Um, yeah,
Oh,
so
okay. ShadCN is like you have to use React or something?
yeah, so we look at here. Here is ShadCN. Let's get started. So you can see here,
Mm,
you can use any
okay.
framework that supports React. And so there's lots of frameworks you can use, but it's React based, whereas Franken UI is not. You don't have to use, you can use whatever you want. And that's nice. It's kind of hard to use React and HTMX together, but with Franken UI, it works very, very well. All right. So I'm going to have to do this because someone who's very, very brilliant, I decided to change my environment right before recording a video. So that's not working for some reason. So I'll launch my app from over here. Okay, we've got our app running. We have a successful app. I like to use live equals true if I'm developing here in Cursor or something. And restart.
Hmm.
And what that
So
does
the live,
is,
okay, live equals true. Isn't if you run like there's no CLI argument that does the same thing? Just out of curiosity.
um, I'm not sure. There might be. I'm not aware of one, but
Okay, no, fair enough.
yeah, I'm not aware
Where
of
are you?
one.
Are you running in a terminal somewhere? You're not running
Yeah,
it here. You're running. Okay, there you go. Okay,
yeah, I'm
sorry.
running it here.
All
Basically,
right,
I made a big did a big environment change and somehow Cursor didn't survive it. So it's having difficulties. So I'm running in a separate terminal, which is working.
got you.
So what the
Okay,
live
cool.
equals true lets me do is I can save it and
The demo. Oh, there you go. Did you
then it
refresh
doesn't.
it?
Yeah, let me kill this
It's
app.
supposed to hot. It's supposed to hot reload like by
It
itself.
it is, yes. All
I
right.
see.
So All right. Well, I guess that's the nature of recording. We're not going to have hot reloading. So that's cool. But anyway, let's let's move on. Pretend like that didn't happen. Okay. So we have these cards. I guess we have a nav bar. So the first thing we need to do is to build a nav bar. Not really going to take a try and look identical to this, but we want something that looks good. So now that we have an output, we can continue to build. So to build a nav bar in MonsterUI, we can start typing navbar, and then everything navbar related will show up in the tab completion. So that's how you get started. So I'm going to start with a navbar container. And inside the navbar container, I can choose where I want stuff, left side, right side, or center. You can have, all the above. Start with right side. Inside the nav, you can look again in nav and see what's there. You can put really anything inside of a one of these sides. You could put let's do the simplest example first. Nav bar left side. We can put, say, an H3 and say Parlance Labs. And we can see that's on the left side. And so I can put any fast HTML component in there. On the right side, instead of putting just regular text, we can put a navigation element. Um, so let's go ahead and cursor's being a little over eager. Let's see what you got. You've got a services page. A team page, an education page, and a blog page.
I gotta fix the
Hey,
href. That's
did a hot reload. Yeah. So none of these
nice.
routes will work because there's no routes to go to. And so we've kind of got the start
Looks really
here.
nice already. Did you already
Yeah.
like do this before this recording? Looks like pretty close to what that is.
I mean, I've built a lot of nav bars, but
Okay.
I didn't do anything for
And
your website.
is it responsive? Like, can you, if you make it, what happens?
Unfortunately, it's somewhat responsive, but not for mobile. It kind of gets to here, but it does not look good when it gets smaller. That's currently kind of one of the highest priorities is to make the nav bar like automatically collapse into a hamburger menu, but it doesn't do that now.
Yeah. All these things, man. I mean, it's like much harder. It's like a lot of work that is that we take for granted. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this nav bar inside of this separate component and call it in the index because we're going to want a nav bar in every
Hmm.
page.
Okay.
Um, you can do it now or later. Um, I know we're going to need it. So move it there. I do this. I'm going to save it. I'm going to make sure it looks the same. Good. Cool. So we're ready for the rest of the page. We have the team. So we can say the titled is team. And we can say the parlance team. That might be the wrong order for us. Let's do navbar, comma, titled.
Mhm.
Cool. So we've got this. Um, I guess for demonstration purposes, I'm going to jump over quickly and give ourselves a theme selector so that we can see what it looks like in different colors if we choose to. And you can see I don't really remember it exactly. It's 2 lines of code, but I always copy and paste it for the docs because I keep examples there.
What I like about a cursor, it feels like it has your clipboard in context. I noticed
Yeah, I think it
sometimes.
does.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think you're right.
'Cause sometimes I copy stuff and it like completes that exact thing and there's no other way. Because it's like sometimes it's like too unique.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we will see what's broken. Oh, I forgot a comma. It's classic. And I think I can just pass the function there. So the nice thing is once you have actual functions here, you can pass the function and it will stringify to the route. So here you have your themes. If we want to have another route, we can see it changes colors with us very nicely. Now we've got dark theme everywhere. And we can add, because we separated this out, we can make sure we have a nav bar on our theme. So navigate there. And let's make this the team page. And we can add this to our nav bar. So as we go, we have our team page, and then we've got 2 routes working we can navigate back and forth between. All right. Um, Next up, we will do these texts. So what we want to do, I think, is create a function that takes in like the name, this text, and an image, and creates a nice card or something. So we don't have to duplicate it. And so if we look at the documentation here, there's a few examples we can pull from. Um, None of them are quite what we want. All right. So, but this one's kind of
But some of
close.
them are kind of pretty cool though. Like yeah, this like feels potentially better, honestly.
Yeah, I think this is nice. I think the thing that's missing from your site is this, this text isn't there. But we could just use,
But yeah, this circular card thing is more modern somehow. I feel.
yeah, well, you know what? Let's not cheat. We will, let me copy something else that doesn't have my keyboard. This is about showing people how to build with it. So I can show you that we can build this and we can um, add it there. So, so what we want, and again, we're going to try and have outputs that we can look at along the way. Is we're going to create our team card. And for right now, it's going to take in a name and we'll just return a card with the name. So
Yeah.
that'll be all it does. And
Sure.
down here, sorry, did you say something?
No, I didn't say.
Ah, team card, and we'll say Hamel. I don't know how to spell your name. Sorry. There we go.
No worries.
Cool. All right, we want to make sure that looks good. Okay, we've got a card. We've at least got that. Next thing we need is maybe all this text. So that,
So why,
um,
okay, no, go ahead. You
oh,
don't
what's the
like
question?
using that component that you have, the little person card thingy that you showed?
We could use it. I was mostly not using it because I was going to
I
show
mean,
people that you
it's
can
like I
build it
want us to
yourself.
okay, let's do that. Yeah, because I don't
But
like it as it is, like completely. I like most of it, let's say. Well, no, look, you got the avatar part in here. Okay, and you got the different, yeah, so it's like pretty much, yeah, I think I could like take what you have here and like I just want to cherry pick some of the components, in a way.
yeah, and that's really what these examples are for. So we can copy it and start from there, or we can build it from scratch. Either way. Um,
I'd say copy it because that's what
okay.
you would want to do in real life. I don't want to build anything from scratch. I want to see if you can
Okay.
leverage your thing as much as possible.
All right. Let's do team card. So let's do this. We do need to change it a little bit because we don't want the fake examples. Um, so actually, let's we have this team card. This is our new team card.
Hmm. Okay.
Name, role, location. We can see that it returns this. So we're basically copying everything out except the exact data because we don't need the exact data. I'm going to actually hold off on the grid because we want to get, one working
Okay.
before we do all of them.
Okay.
Are you founder, CEO? What are you? Is
Yeah, let's go with that. It doesn't matter.
that is that right? Something like that. Okay. So we can see if that worked. All right, we've got a card. We can now add a grid cards. We'll let you multiply. You're in the matrix now.
Hmm.
And
And you could add like text somewhere somehow in that thing.
yeah, we'll add the text here next. Titled was never closed. All right. So we have lots of Hamel. So I guess the next thing is we want to um add text. Are you going to want these like social media icons and like the location and all that, or should I remove those?
I remove everything except for LinkedIn. Kind of want this optional icon for like a website. Um,
Okay. So we use the seed icons here.
hmm,
So let's see if we can find one that looks good for a website.
can be like a little globe maybe or something.
Like this one maybe?
I think so. If you saw that, would you feel like it's like a website? Or how
Yeah,
would you
yeah,
interpret it?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
It looks good. There's about 1,500 you can scroll through if you're bored one day and really want to find something specific. But yeah, anything here just kind of works. Okay. So we have Mail, LinkedIn, and GitHub. So we can get rid of LinkedIn. We can add the globe. We can make that optional later. Again, make sure that works. Cool. We've got LinkedIn and the globe. You said you don't need the map pin and the location.
Yeah, I probably don't need it.
Nice. So here is kind of a feature that's very nice. This div h stack. This is actually doing flex for you to horizontally stack stuff, starting left to right. In this case, I want to use flex to say right align it. So I'm going to use div r aligned to say what you can see here is I've got a bunch. You got right aligned, centered, fully spaced, put stuff as far apart from each other as possible, and horizontally stacked, vertically stacked, left aligned. And so instead of remembering kind of the flex stuff, because I never could, should be able to say, see here, div, see here, div, fully spaced. So that fully spaces them, as you can see. Div are aligned. And this div are aligned should line them up to the right. And by default, adds a little bit of space between them, just because that almost always looks good than having them too scrunched up. Cool. So we don't need a remote anymore. We'll clean that up. Or all right, let's see what error we've got. Okay, so we're not using this. Let me try and delete that again. See what I screwed up. Okay, well, I'll come back to that. I don't know why I need that. All right, so next we can add the text. You've got this team.qmd file, so I copied it in here, and I'm just going to copy the text out. And you could store this in a file. You can kind of store it anywhere. I might just say, let's make a new file, which is, we'll call it team.py. We need some way to get the text into Python. And so one way to do that is here, to make it a string. You could also, you could store it in a SQLite database. You could store them in separate markdown files. I guess eventually, if it doesn't change much, a Python file is nice and easy. If it's going to change a fair amount, um, it might be nice to put them in markdown files so you have markdown editing and all that.
Hmm.
Are these real people or is it making this up?
Um, John, I didn't get to read
John,
that.
Josh? Oh, sorry.
But it's okay. No, that's right. Wow.
Oh, great.
I guess it must be from your keyboard. Is it from your
Well, I have this other
clipboard
one
instead?
open. It must be seeing,
Yeah, yeah, it must be.
is Greg the last one? Okay, well, that went faster than I thought. Great. So, all right. So we need to see what's going on here. Okay. All right. So let's make sure this was a good idea. When we go to the team route, we want all of our team members. So we can say now from team import.
Yeah, you press
Uh,
tab, it will correct it for you.
cool.
Okay.
And I might actually just say team
Yeah, put it in the
members.
list. Yeah, yeah. Or do that, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Cool. We can be really fancy.
Yeah,
Just
star.
say
Import star now.
cool. All right. Cool. Got to use import star as much as possible. Really make everyone
Yeah.
mad, right? All
Mm.
right. Cool. So So now we have the text ready for us. We have our cards. We need to add text. Do you like having both the name and then the title, or should it just be name and just the description?
Um, it's a good question. I don't know. I guess like the title is not really important, so I would say don't even need it probably.
Okay, let's get rid of the title then. All right, so we have this div with the name. So actually we needed that div. So now that we have that, let's say we're going to put a paragraph tag with the description. Really wants to have this location here for some reason. So we'll figure that out at some point. And now we need a way. Oh, I see, because we give it this location. Okay, so we have a title and we have a description. And now we need to get the description from the team members. I guess I can use that after all.
I have like, does the image that you load into this card, does it automatically crop it for you to be a circle thing? Do you know?
This avatar or the
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it no, it allows you to set, I believe it allows you to set a height and a width here. So it sets a size. It's not actually, I don't draw the circle and then put an avatar in it. The whole avatar is what comes back from the Dice Spare Avatar API. Um, this is an av a this is a API that we integrate with that just lets
Hmm,
you call the API and with a name and it
I
just
see.
comes back with an avatar. That's how they have all these different ones for the different names.
So
So I
if I had to put
realized,
my picture in there, I would have to like maybe do something different. I don't know.
yeah, these are just generic ones. I don't know if they have ones for specific images, but I'm just passing the name and it's just generating a random avatar.
Gotcha.
So I realized that this needs to change a little bit because we need not just the description, but we need the name that goes with it. So I'm going to make this a dictionary. Um, so now we have our team members and we have all this. And we have our team members. And the first thing we can do is we can say team members, Hamel, and that is too big. So let's fix this. Render and render this as Markdown. Cool. So now instead of just text, we actually get text that is rendered into HTML, which means it's going to play nicely with all the components. And so we can see this. Now these cards, there's too many wide for that description, so we can fix that by doing our responsive classes. And you can see here we have calls if you just want to say, hey, I always just want one column, you can say calls one, and every size screen, it will always just have a size of one. You can also set a max size, a min size, or you
Hmm.
can set it at different breakpoints, and it'll do all that for you. So in this case, maybe calls max of two could make sense.
Hmm.
And so then now it doesn't matter how big it gets, it'll just be two, but at some point it'll flatten down to one. So like for mobile.
That's fun. And the breakpoints are like the extra large, large, medium, depending on your viewport width or whatever it is called. Is that
That's right. That's right. So in this case, we probably want, one for small, like if we're going to do this, two for medium, two for large, maybe three for extra large if we wanted to set them all.
mm,
Let's get rid of this calls max. So we could say like, but like even that's a little bit too small. So we might just want to say one, one, two, two. So it's like two wide's the most. And again, that's kind of what it takes for
hmm,
it to be responsive for you.
nice.
So yeah. All right. So I
It's
guess we
cool, man.
should,
It's nice.
yeah.
Even I can understand this, which is like huge achievement.
I
Because
don't
like
know. You're
this
you're
stuff
pretty
is like
smart, man.
usually it's usually like complicated. Like
It's usually very complicated.
I get lost in this styling stuff
Yeah, me
and
too.
kind of like give up like after some point.
So I don't know. Maybe is that better or is that worse? Kind of having it like this.
I like this. Yeah, this I like this. It
Okay.
gives a nice visual separation. What did you do? How did you do that?
So I'll undo it real quick. So you can see here is we have a div L aligned. That means the
Mm,
things inside this are going to be left aligned. And so I have avatar, and then I have a div, and the div has name and description, which means I have avatar, and then I have the div, left to right.
I see.
Now, all I said is I'm going to say, you know what, I don't want this description left aligned there. I'm going to move it after. And what you see now is we have a div L aligned. So we have dice bear avatar followed by this div, which only has a name in it. And then after that, a description, which makes it go down to the new
So
line
L
instead.
line, does it put it on the same row?
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it.
If you manage to get it small enough, it'll collapse down to the next row, though. It's using Flex, so it is somewhat responsive.
Okay.
None of it's like hard coded. So what might look nice is a little bit more space here, just because like I don't know, there's a lot of space to use up. And so what you can do is we can add, it's kind of our first example, we can say space dash x dash say 10. And I'll explain this in a second. And there's a larger space there. Maybe that looks good. And this is kind of our first example of like, yeah, we're using this like pre-built components that look pretty good, but like I just felt like adding a little bit of space and I didn't have the option and I just used Tailwind. So it has all the power of Tailwind. You can just add it in wherever you want when you need to. But hopefully you don't have to do much of it because writing
Can you just
Tailwind's
say more
painful.
about that? Like, what do you mean has the power of tailwind and you can use it whenever you want?
So this is Tailwind. This isn't something I have built
Okay.
into MonsterUI. So when you use the headers, Tailwind is brought in. So Tailwind is one of the things that's brought in for you. And so any Tailwind class you can use. If you find a component that's styled with Tailwind and doesn't use any Franken UI or Daisy UI or any of the stuff that the Monster UI uses, you can copy and paste it directly in and just use Tailwind. Um, and so Tailwind is more flexible. Monster UI is like designed to get you like
Just so
80%
I
of the way to,
understand,
yeah.
you said that if, did I hear you correctly? You said if you're not using a Monster UI component, then you can use the Tailwind class?
You can use Tailwind anywhere.
Okay.
So like this is div L aligned. This is something Monster UI created. This is something from Monster UI. And I added a Tailwind class on top of it.
What
So
does that do?
they,
Is that margins or something?
yeah, so this applies spacing along the x-axis.
Okay.
So, and I've got here, if you really like this stuff, I have a whole spacing tutorial which talks about the difference between padding and margin and spacing and gap and what the differences are. And you can see it's got visuals. It's like, oh, okay, this is margin versus padding, and you can see this is a left margin, lots of space on the left. This is a left padding. The space is on the inside of the card, and here's what gap does. Here's a gap, and then here is space. And so you see, if you use space in the wrong situations, like a gap, it doesn't align right. So in this situation, gap's important. In a form,
What is space? How is that? Why is it making it taller
um,
in the left,
so
in that one?
because space applies the spacing on every element except the first. And so when there's space, it's saying there's space
Mm,
here because this isn't the first element. So it looks indented, but this one is spaced. This is the first element, so it's not spaced. Same on the Y. This is also the top left, so it's like the very first. There's no spacing here, which is why it's taller, but there is spacing here. So
I
with a
see.
grid,
Okay.
you always want to use gap. With a form, you always want to use space because you can see a form with spacing. You look at the gap and it doesn't really work at all, but space does. So like when you get into Tailwind, there's all kinds of like confusing
Wait,
stuff.
what's wrong with the gap in the form? I don't see the problem. Is there a problem?
There's no gap. It did
Oh,
not
the gap.
space
Okay,
between phone
okay,
and like
gotcha.
here you've got this space. So they
But
just work in different
how come with
situations.
the form, how come like the space didn't, I guess like, it doesn't apply to the first one. So why would it?
This is the first one, and we don't want space above the top of
Okay, I'm gonna read this document closely
it.
and learn
Yeah.
what's going on.
So I said space along the y-axis, but space doesn't apply to the first element. So that means I don't have space on top of this. I don't want space on top. I want space between all the elements below it.
Okay.
And so in this case, that's perfect. Also, while I'm talking about this, there's also a layout guide which like walks through a little bit like how do you use a grid to lay things out. And then it's like, here's another grid. It's a little bit more advanced. How do you get like more advanced layouts with grid? And it again, all these are flippable, so you can see the code. It's got a tutorial link to for Flexbox, but then it's like, here's how you use Flexbox for stuff. This is another Flexbox thing like we did, more advanced Flexbox. But when you look at this card, this looks pretty nice. It's really not that much code. Like half of it is just this feature list almost. Here's a footer with Flex, a dashboard with Flex. And so kind of creating these guides to help make it like actually understandable for like the important concepts. Sorry, I didn't mean to knowledge like dump a whole bunch on you, but it's interesting. So we have our card here. We want to make them for all of them. So now that we know one works, we can take that next step. Say team card, and we want to say team members, team card. Actually, I don't think we want to do a map. We want to do a list comprehension. So team card, we want name, description, or name, description in team members.items. Okay, that's cool. See what I broke? Probably a comma or parentheses. Yep, I was right. So where does that need to be? Good. And when you have a list, you need to do star to let it unwrap. That did not work because we need to do our render of a markdown. Okay, and we're here. How does this look?
Looks good. What is the render MD? Where is that coming from again? Sorry, I
That's
missed that
also,
part.
yeah, that's also coming from Monster UI.
Okay,
So
so it just will render it. Okay, cool. That's
exactly. So you can see kind of a minimal example here. You got markdown, you do render markdown, and it's got not just Monster UI styling, but like some extra spacing and stuff to try and make it look, good. Um,
mm,
you can see kind of under the hood, it uses mistletoe to convert to HTML, and you get raw HTML from that.
mm.
And then you apply classes, and it just adds all the classes in, just like you would. Lots of lots of stuff for you. Um,
Oh,
so
nice. Where apply classes is that coming from? I mean, I
another
know it's
Monster
in your
UI
Monster
thing.
UI, but it's like something you created. Okay, this sounds useful.
Yeah. So yeah, this is it. We've got a basic class map to
The
like,
idea is that for apply classes, you would inject some Tailwind stuff potentially.
yeah, well, exactly. I inject, and this is Franken UI, and then I inject some Tailwind stuff. So like I inject, this is Franken UI, and then I inject some Tailwind. And so like normally when I'm writing code, I never get this detailed. But because markdown rendering is so common, I took the time to say like, okay, I'm going to get very specific and make the markdown rendering really good so that whenever I use text, I can just write markdown and then make it look good every time without having to think about like, oh, well, this margin on the bottom versus the left versus, this all this stuff. Like this is too much for me. This is
So
what
you
I don't want to write.
basically, is it so we can replace our Quarto sites already, basically, because you have this render markdown,
Um,
maybe. I don't know.
kind of. So like,
Or we can like for a next website,
yeah,
like
so like,
instead of doing it in Quarto, we can maybe do it.
oh,
I know it's not
absolutely.
one-to-one mapping, but like
Like
whatever.
this kind of stuff, I don't have some we don't have something that'll take this from a markdown and render it. Now, we do have things like alerts. So like
No, I mean you don't wanna have to worry about replicating 100% of Quarto just for the
exactly.
sake of being compatible with Quarto. That seems I don't know, like I don't doesn't seem like necessary.
Oh, I agree. Like we have stuff that gives the same effect.
Yeah,
Um
you could probably find something in somewhere HTML component. Maybe Franken UI has a call out thing. I don't know. It's like possible.
yeah, like we could do stuff like this,
Mm.
for, an alert. We could put more text in there. So we have stuff, but yeah, we just don't support like this Quarto specific syntax in Markdown. And that's really the only thing. Like we could like all these like these guides here, like this is all written in Markdown. Like this is
Mm.
Markdown. And so like it looks pretty good, I think, at least. Um
No, it does look good. Yeah, it's really nice.
and so yeah, I mean that's really the only thing would be kind of any Quarto features that are already in the site you have to migrate off, but there's other things you can use here. So um all right, cool. Well, I guess we should finish up this page. Um, we need an actual picture. Um,
What do you mean? You need to substitute the avatar or?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want the avatars there, but I was thinking you had pictures. We can show
Oh,
how
you have a
pictures
handy
go in.
thing for that? Okay, let's try.
Well, I mean, let's find out. I don't know how it'll work,
Okay,
but
okay.
ideally it should work. Okay, so let's try images. Let's see here. SRC equals images slash. Let's see if I know how to do this. I don't think I do. Okay, you are definitely there.
Hmm.
Nice circle, small for 18. Okay, that gives us a
Okay.
good start. So that's rounded full, width and height. That's a little bit small. Let's play with it. And this is where I like adding using AI to generate this. What I find sometimes is like when people use too much AI to style it, you end up with like so many classes that most of your code is just like class strings, and it's really hard to like understand what's going on. This I can understand. I can understand what rounded means for a circular image. I can understand what width and height is. Not really sure about object cover. I don't know if we need that or not. Did something. Yeah, I don't know what it did. It did a little something. So, but ideally kind of injecting just a little bit in. So this name,
By the way, I think we have 5 minutes
okay.
essentially. So-
So you can use the capitalize. It's kind of lazy of me. I didn't want to capitalize them all. Um,
What does capitalize do?
it literally capitalizes text for you. Um, so like here, if you have lowercase,
Oh, okay, okay, I got it. Okay,
I could definitely have gone in here and capitalized these, but you know,
okay, cool.
that's
No
probably the
worries.
better thing to do. But
No, it's fine.
okay, let's check here. I think we pretty much replicated everything, right?
Table of contents. I know that's like an advanced thing on the side.
Oh, let's see here. Okay, let's see now. So this is going to be a navigation element.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, we got all kinds of navigation elements. So yeah, probably something like this. So let's see, let's define our table table of contents. Okay, try and get this done in our 2 minutes we've got.
This one would
So
be interesting. It's like, can it read from the page or something? Can it infer the content and create the?
it can sometimes. It can sometimes like if you're like, hey, I want something that looks good in this nav bar. Sometimes it does okay.
Hmm. No, I mean
Let's.
just from the what you have already. No, but like, and not so you don't have to hard code the TOC. So I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Let's
But
see here.
yeah, that's fun too.
Okay, so let's see. This is not going to be best. Okay, what is wrong? Team
In,
member.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so
TOC.
I don't need that. We'll do href for now. We won't have time to link them up, but we can probably get this working. All right, let's see how our example worked. Nav container, and we put stars, length a. have our TOC, returns a nav container. So that is probably this. All right, so why is this not? Oh, this should be a map. Pressure's on. I want to get this done before we have to go in like 2 minutes. All right, we have a
Okay.
little bit of a table of contents. We needed to get it lined up, but yeah, that's how you do it.
Okay.
We can
Yeah, it's pretty good so far. Like it's pretty impressive.
yeah,
For
what I
someone that
really
is not a designer or anything, like I don't have no idea how you made all this stuff. But okay.
yeah, it's just lots of looking at documentation, but what I like about this is like when you look at this, everything we built today is in this screen. It's 48 lines of code. It's like not huge. I mean, we have like images and like text in another file, but like all of this makes sense. Like I can read it, I can understand it, and I'm not like beholden to like find the perfect Tailwind component that I can copy and paste in because I can't build anything. I can like tweak and modify it because it's like, oh, I want stuff on the right. Well, I do a right aligned thing. I want to render markdown. I do the render markdown, and that's what I really like about it. Like I can understand it and actually build with it. So,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Thanks for
all
doing
right.
this. It's a very useful tutorial. And like since thank you for doing it on like something I'm familiar with. I feel like it really burns into my mind more. I'm like, or I remember it more this way somehow.
Yeah, well, I want to keep doing these. Like, maybe we can do another one for another page for you, but I want to keep doing these where it's like on other people's stuff because it's like, I don't know. It's only so impressive. I'm like, oh, I could code the stuff that I've built before. Like, yeah, of course I can. I'm super familiar with it, but that doesn't really prove the framework's nice. Like, I like kind of it being a little bit more of like stuff I haven't seen before, so you can see the process. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do
It's
some more. All right. Well, I guess that's
cool,
it.
man. All right, thank
All right.
you.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. Bye.
All right, see ya.